Good evening. My guest tonight is Dr. Kofi Konadu-Apraku, the Minister at the helm of affairs at the Ministry of Trade and Industry. What policies have been implemented so far to reverse the huge trade deficits that we experience with almost every country? How are we trying to get our industry to be more competitive? And how will all of this help to turn the Ghanaian economy around? Dr. Apraku, welcome to Time with David.
Thank you very much.
Very early in the year, when you were in office about 2 months, you seemed very optimistic. I spoke to you on an earlier program. You had all kinds of plans. How do you feel now after 10 months? Do you feel the same exuberance, or are you a little more measured in your expectations?
The expectations have not been measured or gone down, but the challenges have become more realistic, more real, that I know that there are a lot of work that needs to be done.
You mean you have a deeper appreciation of the problems?
I have a deeper appreciation of the problems, but I'm very optimistic because we believe that we have started very well, both as a government and at the ministerial level.
Why do you think you've started well?
Because the first thing we did when we got into office was to take a second look at the ministry. We brought all our officers, we brought people from the private sector, academia, we gathered at Kipkus,
I recall
Coconut Grove.
That's correct.
And we sat there and we asked 3 questions. Where are we today? Where do we want to go? And how do we get there? Within the framework of the objectives that have been set for the Ministry of Trade and Industry, we asked those questions. We believe we came out with answers that help us to begin to plan the process of recovery for the ministry, for the industry, for trade. And I think we have done very well in terms of implementing those. For example,
before we do, let's look at trade.
Yes.
I would like to look at it specifically. Let's look at trade.
Yes.
We have a huge deficit.
Yes.
Almost every country. As you say, even with La Côte d'Ivoire, we run a deficit.
That's right.
Why?
We run a deficit because we're not producing enough. And when we produce, we are not able to export. Simple as that. In other words, we are importing more goods from these countries, including La Côte d'Ivoire, as you indicated, than we are exporting to them. So the question is, find out why is it that we have to import onion from Côte d'Ivoire, snails from Côte d'Ivoire, and many other items that we could easily grow in our country.
What are we going to do about it?
Well, one, the production phase, I'm sure is being addressed. But even the processing phase, the exporting phase, those are my responsibilities. And there are certain things that we ourselves can't do. For example, if you recall last week, we had the African trade ministers gathered here in Accra. I invited them, and it was sponsored by the World Bank. The objective was to bring these trade ministers from the ECOWAS region together, sit down as colleagues.
It's not the first time.
Yes.
ECOWAS ministers meet all the time.
They meet all the time. This is a very different meeting. Most of the meetings are ones that have been organized by ECOWAS itself. That we go is almost like an annual affair. This is an initiative from a private, a particular country, a minister. Ghana, asking his colleagues to come and sit down. And it's not one of those theoretical meetings. This was a practical meeting.
Tell me one specific thing that you agreed upon that you will implement.
One thing that we agree upon that we will implement is that there is going to be a second meeting where we will bring all the custom officers from all the 3 countries. We will bring all the border workers, the security agencies, and the ministers themselves.
And get them to do what? To allow the free movement of goods and services.
To begin the process of removing the barriers that we have erected ourselves, the corruption, the processes that engender smuggling and all of those.
And you think you will succeed?
Absolutely.
What will you do differently? These officials are kings at their various points. They are people that use those jobs to enrich themselves.
Yeah.
They work together, conspire together. How will you change it?
They conspire together because they have not had the right leadership. They conspire together because those who ought to stop them have not stopped them. And increasingly, it's become very clear to all of us ministers that we cannot tolerate the situation. And
at our borders.
At our borders. And I'm not speaking for them. They spoke themselves. They are also worried about what is going on in their own country.
Are you suggesting that the reason that ECOWAS protocol of free movements of goods and services is really not happening is because of customs officials?
Oh, you asked me one question.
No, but is that possible?
That is not the only reason.
Is that a big reason?
It's one of the important.
What is another important reason?
Another important reason is the ETLS, the ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme program that allows reciprocity. If a Ghanaian firm exports goods and services to Ivory Coast, it's supposed to get some tax dispensation. And if they do that, they also supposed to enjoy.
And how is that a problem?
It is not working.
Why not?
Because of the differences between the French, the Francophone systems, and the Anglophone systems. And these are issues that have been debated before. But we seem all to have come to a conclusion, for whatever reason, I don't know. But it's more clear to all of us now that something ought to be done. And it seemed the enthusiasm that all the ministers displayed and their commitment, at least that I can only...
But this is a public, the show of enthusiasm.
No, it is
Why do you think that this has a genuine motive behind it? Because these meetings, Dr. Preku, as you say, this might be different, but they are not really new. And I cannot expect ministers to come and not show enthusiasm. The real test is in whether they truly implement what you decide.
And that is what you and I have to wait for. I could only say what happened, and I could only say what happened at the multilateral, bilateral meetings. These are now public displays.
Should you put the French aside and concentrate on English-speaking West Africa?
I don't think we should do so.
No, do the French, do the two blocks, the existence of two blocks which are real, are part of our history, colonialism. Are we not overlooking the reality of that? Maybe we should forget about the French.
Don't kid yourself. The reality is that we are Africans and we are all poor. And that is the reality. That is the common factor. The language has nothing to do with the fact that we are poor.
Our topic today is the concept of productivity. Since we started these AMSCO workshops, the perception and the mentality of the people have really changed. We try to get graduates with different diverse backgrounds from the universities, and we kind of treat them as management trainees on the job. We have different programs. We have the apprenticeship program, for instance, and now we have about 50 apprentices in the mechanical side. And I've built a team of young graduates around me, and we are working together. We were doing the work of what expatriates were doing before, and I think this is really a remarkable movement.
Life's fascinating journey begins with the hope and promise of great things. Yet sometimes people lose their way and need the assurance that everything will be okay. Sometimes they stumble, sometimes they fall, and need someone to help them stand tall. But for us, there's the joy of carrying the load to make sure that others get to the end of the road. That's what our lives are about, always there to provide a way out. So look around, and you'll find that we're the most experienced provider of peace of mind. Enterprise Insurance. Time-tested, truly trusted.
Is it not possible that the French government,
Yes.
given its own relationship with its own colonies, pursues a policy that runs contrary to the ECOWAS plan?
Obviously they would, but we ought to be smarter than that.
The French people.
The French people, the English people, whoever people, everybody has their own agenda. Africans ought to have our own agenda. And what I'm saying is that we ought to be smarter to look at the reality in our own countries. It may suit the French that Ghana and Ivory Coast do not even talk, but that is their agenda. Our agenda is to look at what is happening in our own country vis-a-vis what is happening to their own citizens.
We must grow trade amongst ourselves.
Absolutely. This is the essence of what we are doing. And let me say that human beings thrive on hope. They hope that things will be better. If I were to come to this office and assume that because somebody else did it and it did not work, so I'm not going to do anything, then life will not be worth living.
Although
I have to believe.
Although it is important that apart from belief that you are specific about what you intend to do.
And that is exactly what I said. When we met, we were not interested in long list of things that can be done. We are looking for practical, easy steps that can begin the process of building confidence. We don't trust each other, such as you yourself seem to think that perhaps we should even let them go. I don't believe we should let them go. We should begin a process that links us together, building bridges, building confidence, so that the Anglophone and the Francophones will feel that we are together as one.
What about trade? Dr. Preku, let me change tack. What about trade with the developed world?
That also must be addressed, and we are very marginalized. If you look at what has happened over the last 10 years, the data is so dismal for Africa, it's not funny.
Because we don't work as a group.
Partly we don't work as a group, and we don't work well individually either.
But WTO regulations and the whole global thing, is it friendly? Is it not possible?
Absolutely unfriendly. Absolutely unfriendly. And even when it is friendly, we have not been able to develop the mechanisms that allow us to benefit from it. And as you recall, and I think you are going to say this is another meeting, but be that as it may, this is where it ought to start.
What mechanisms?
We had a meeting also of the ECOWAS trade, African ministers just before the ECOWAS, where we brought them together to take common positions that we are going to take to Doha. Doha starts next month. And we have listed positions that to us are non-negotiable. In the past, we have been marginalized. We have been marginalized because we have not thought through very clearly what it is exactly that we want to accomplish.
As independent countries or as a
together,
bloc?
As a bloc. This is why we brought all of them together to sit here for 2 days to think about the things that are so critical to us that we will not negotiate. And we have a list.
So Africa will go to these meetings with
one
a
common list.
With a position,
issues,
a clear position, and negotiate itself.
A clear position, not just the position, but also the strategy.
What happened to South-South cooperation? It used to be a big catchphrase.
What has happened to it is that the resources there, it hasn't worked. And it hasn't worked. And because it hasn't worked, does not mean we have to give up. We have to keep pushing. We have to be innovative. We have to find ways to deal with the problems. And some of the problems that we dealt with was what are the ones that we can get everybody to rally around. That was the essence of the meeting. There are some that will divide us. There are some that everybody will join. We have identified those that we believe we can go, and Ivory Coast will join, and Ghana will join, and Nigeria will join. Those are the ones that we want to go and push at this meeting.
The Africa Growth Opportunity Act.
Very good.
It seemed to me at the beginning of the year that it provided great opportunity. How are we taking advantage of it?
Yes, we're working very, very hard.
Must we take advantage of it? There is a school of thought that says that again, is one of those things that doesn't really work for us, works for the United States of America. I've seen those arguments. Is there a case there at all?
Absolutely, a case there is to be made for us to take advantage of it.
No, the argument that we must be careful about it.
Of course, you have to be careful in everything that you do. Cautious in what you do. There are no free lunches.
Yes, but
that should be at the back of our mind. But let me tell you, the opportunities that it offers to us, never before has it been made available to us. It may not resolve all our problems. It's the best that we have in terms of moving more goods and services from Ghana to the United States that has ever been offered to us. Let me finish. Now, what have we done to take advantage of it? We formed a National AGOA Coordinating Committee. We have looked at countries that have been very successful, such as Uganda, such as Kenya, such as Mauritius. Many of these that I have mentioned have doubled their exports to the United States based on this program. So we have taken a look at it, and we have learned from them. I met the ministers. I asked them, tell me what you did to make you successful. They told us.
What was it? What did they do?
Well, one of the first steps is that they set up this National Coordinating Committee, bringing the private sector operators and public sector operators together. to begin the process of laying the foundation. One, you have to be able to let your people know what it is that we are going in for. They have to understand the quality standards that are required. They have to understand the products that are required. It is not typically the boo-boos that we wear that we are talking about.
They might have a fine understanding, but they will need support.
I'm coming. There are so many. They have to find the markets in the United States. They have to be able to produce the volumes that are required. They must have the capital, the investment that is required, more than anything else. But even more fundamental, they have to have what we call the visa system that is developed by the country that identifies the goods that are exported from Ghana, that distinguishes Ghana's exports from others. That we have developed. That's the first step to even begin to think of AGOA.
Right.
We have developed, we call it the visa system. Now, the issue is to get resources, capital into Ghana, to team up with our small producers to be able to produce
Will
the quality.
you get that capital?
We are working very aggressively.
Where are you looking for that capital?
We have, let me tell you, countries that are...
Where will you find the capital?
We will find the capital wherever we can find it.
But where
there
are you looking
specifically the Asian countries that have done extremely well in the export of textiles. They have met their quotas to the United States. And when they would have met their quotas, they can't without having to pay very heavy duties. So those are the ones that we are attracting them to come here. And we have had visits. Some of these...
Are you getting a good response?
Some very good response. I was going to say the tie that I had on was one of those that was produced by one of these countries. It just happened not to be...
The tie you wear?
No, not this one. A similar one that I had yesterday, for example, is the producer of that tie has exceeded the quota and is operating in Mauritius. Came here, not only tie, but beautiful shares that are being exported to the U.S.
So they will invest in this place?
They are very determined. And many others that I can't mention.
What about our own people here? Do they show any interest in these things?
Very. The problems are there, and I don't know how much time we have to go over all of them.
We don't have all the time.
But they are very interested. But Ghana government itself is doing something to help to deal with some of the problems.
I mean,
For
GTMC,
example,
Ghana Textile Manufacturing Company.
Yes.
I mean, we look at the importance of textiles.
Yes.
For a significant part of this year, it was shut down.
It was shut down, but we have done something about it.
It's back to
I
work.
have visited the plant. The president has brought the two unions together. I was at a meeting where we have signed an agreement to work together. We take all these matters seriously. That was one of the firms that I visited. I met with the workers, I met with the management. We asked them, what is it that we can do in our own small way to help facilitate?
Long-term capital.
They produce in a less than 40% capacity. And we know the capacity is there. The market may be out there. They told me the problem they face.
That's lack of capital. Is it lack of capital one of those?
One of them, but there is a
what
lot
happened to the
more.
Ghana Investment Fund then? That's one of the ways that you are going to deal with long-term capital.
Yes.
What
one of the major
that?
problems with all these production issues is capital.
Yeah.
We are establishing the Ghana Investment Fund. We
Dr.
have
Aproko, you told me 8 months ago we are establishing the Ghana Investment Fund.
Yeah, because it's
You
not
are
that
still
easy.
establishing it.
We have some seed money. You see, we in this government have to do things properly.
Which means what?
It means that, one, it has been approved by cabinet. It has to go through parliament for parliamentary approval before the resources are mobilized.
Even if it takes 36 months.
This is the system that exists. There is no way we can establish a fund like that without going through
But
parliament.
why must government get involved in an investment fund, venture capital fund? Why not allow private people to do that?
Because there are not enough private people willing to do that, and we want to begin the process.
Venture capital?
Yeah, we don't have
Not
many.
enough.
We have only 2 or 3 venture capital
Who are
funds
they?
in Ghana. We have the one by Fidelity Group. I think there is one that called Ghana Venture Capital Fund, and the third one, I don't remember exactly, but about 3 of them that exist in the country. Let me tell you our conception of this, then I'll tell you what other avenues in terms of resources that we are making available to the private sector. Ghana Investment Fund is a concept that is being practiced even in Canada. The Canadian government started a venture capital.
That does not mean
No. Let me.
it's practiced in Canada.
Oh, please, let me just tell you. You are saying that why should government get involved? Government gets involved as a catalyst, and it's very clear in our manifesto. Did I particularly put it in there?
To get it going?
Yes.
Will you come out at a later time? Is that the plan?
Absolutely. We want to provide the catalyst for that, to give confidence to the private sector. We in this part of the world, businesses are very hesitant. They always want to know that one government tend to approve. Otherwise, in the other parts of the world, when a businessman comes to invest, they don't go to see the minister. Here, everybody wants to make sure that the government itself is supportive.
Get your groove on.
GTMC Fabrics. Get your groove on.
Get your groove on.
Formerly, I was a cocoa farmer, but at the end of the year, because our land is not suitable, we can't get more money out of it. So I learned citrus. I was taught, and later when I came, I get more ideas from Samates. That's why I have been able to achieve this. Even if I die, my parents and my children, my family will also earn money from the trees I'm planting.
When you want to build lasting success for your business, you must seek to build it on strong pillars. The first pillar is to go to great lengths to provide solutions for your clients. The second is to earn the trust of your clients. The third pillar involves pooling the knowledge and skills of your people to offer your clients the right solution. And when it all gets rather difficult, the fourth pillar means that whatever happens, the job gets done. At CAL, we've built our success on the strength of these pillars, and we'll use them to help you build yours. You will succeed. CAL Merchant Bank, a different bank.
A government that talks about, if you like, handing over to the private sector, wanting to get involved in a thing like that, can you not see that that could be a problem?
It could be a problem. What I've said is that we want to be the catalyst. In our part of the world, in many, many instances, government has to provide the way, lead the way, and guide policy, and in many instances, even guide firms and withdraw. We had stated very categorically in our manifesto that government will provide just 25% of the initial capital fund. The private sector will contribute 75%. At a later stage, we will completely withdraw. We are doing this to send confidence to the private sector that indeed the program is well supported by government, and to use it as a mechanism to allow others to come in. And believe me, wherever I have gone and asked firms to invest in it, they don't want to know what is government's commitment to it. I don't believe it's the best way, but given our circumstances, is the way to start the process.
Let's look at policy, Dr. Preku. Let's look at policy and how important it is for government to send the right signals. We still have a large quantity of second-hand clothes coming onto our market. We have Dutch wax prints on the market. But we are keen to grow our own local textile industry. Is there a contradiction there?
Absolute contradiction, particularly with used clothing. Yesterday I was asked this question.
So why are you not dealing with it?
Let me.
No, because you seem so aware of the problem. I don't doubt it at all. But what are you doing about it?
We're doing something about it.
We're doing something about it.
I think your first inclination is that the next day we took office, we ban all used clothing.
Not necessarily. I'm keen to get a sense of the policy in that regard.
Yeah, the policy in that regard is that we have also looked at the situation. We know what the youth clothing does in our country. There are a lot of poor people in our country who can only afford that. We also know that we are not being competitive enough in our country, such that the prices they are offering, it will be difficult for even our firms to compete.
Chicken and egg, which comes first?
So what we want to do is to balance the process. We are engaged in a major trade policy review in this country. And in the next month, they will present a report to us. Based on that report, we will take certain actions. We don't want to be adding in an ad hoc manner. You come, you ban this, and you realize it's a mistake, and then you reintroduce it. We know second-hand clothing is not acceptable to us for various reasons. For even beyond the economic reason, it is not for us to use other people's clothes that have been thrown away. I don't like it. I don't want my children to wear it. And I believe nobody wants to wear it. Circumstances have made it such that we have to tolerate it for a while. If today we are able to strengthen our textile industry such that they are producing the clothes, the issue about second-hand clothing providing job opportunity will be relevant, because these same people could sell clothing produced in Ghana.
Subsidies to our industry?
No, I'm saying...
I'm asking, could we do that? Is that one way we could help them get to a point so we can
don't have to even say subsidies, but we're making credit available to the private sector at rates that are below the market rates.
Shall we impose tariffs on second-hand clothing? Not ban it,
this
but
is
make it
part
more
of the
expensive?
trade policy review. It's being done. You
are reviewing that?
Yes. We have a consultant involved in telling us
what we already know.
You think you know.
I'm suggesting that the Ministry of Trade and Industry is an institution that existed long before governments changed. These problems have been around for a long time.
You see,
people have documented them, and as usual, they end up on the shelf.
Let me
come back to review again.
No, let me tell you the mistake in what we do in this country. Everybody thinks every problem is so obvious that it has a particular solution. We want to make policies that are backed with empirical findings. For example, there are instances where reducing tariffs may mean more revenues can be received. There are instances where reducing tariffs may mean loss in revenues. You and I may disagree on this. I know that
you are the policy maker.
I'm the policy maker, but I want to make policies that are based on credible research. If I go out there and say that, oh, because we are importing so much of a good, we should slap a tax on it, there are implications that I have to deal with based on WTO rules and regulations. I'm already struggling with one, and I've been to Geneva to discuss this special tax that was put on by the last government. It's illegal. We can't tolerate it. The only way we can tolerate it is to justify that there is a country that is directly dumping goods in our country. There has not been any research in Ghana to establish that there is dumping, even though we all know there is dumping. A trade minister can't just go out there and say, because you think there is dumping, and I know that there is dumping, I should ban it. You have to go with documents that proves it. This is what we are doing.
And you're still assembling that?
Yes, there is a consultant already working on all of these. Can I get a sense
of deadlines here, say? At what point will a lot of this research come to an end and implementation begin?
There's not a whole lot of research that we are doing. Don't create the impression that all we are doing is research. We are involved in only one major policy review.
Which is
that is being done by a funding from DFID.
When will that one come to an end?
We expect the results to be middle of next month, November. They should present a report to us. When the report is presented, let me tell you the processes. When the report is presented to me, I read it, I take it to cabinet, for cabinet to approve. Out of it, then we will decide what legislation must be put in place. You know, they may mean that we have to go to parliament and say that this law exists that allows this to happen.
It's quite a process, eh?
Yes, it's not like I get up on my own. A trade minister seem to have so much power and just go and say, we are a law and order government. The legal processes must work, and they must be seen to be working.
Can we improve them so that they work faster?
That is beyond my control. I can't go and change the parliamentary procedures. This is what other people who don't believe in democracy in the past said, that that's why the parliamentary system is too much cumbersome. But be that as it may, this is the system that we have to work with until the system is changed. And I'm not advocating any change, because I haven't done my work enough to come here and say that change the parliamentary system. But I'm telling you the process that exists. I go to cabinet, get consent from parliament that we should change this law. We go back and let our lawyers draft the law, go to Attorney General's office, make sure that the law is consistent with the constitutional provisions, go to parliament, have it approved, sign, and then it becomes law.
Business confidence, how is it? Still high?
I think the business...
You don't think it's been dipping? That compared to the very early days?
I don't believe
You're
so
not
at all.
squandering any opportunities in terms of confidence?
We're doing things. Let me give you some of the things that is sending
No,
confidence.
I'm afraid we can't. We're run out of time, and I'm glad
But
that
I
you
want
came.
to tell you that the business confidence today is higher than it's ever been for a very long time. Don't believe me, go talk to them.
So we should begin to see by next year that
The
that is
results will be showing quicker than people believe.
I'm happy to hear that. Dr. Apraku, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.